Captain Vactor's log, stardate many moons ago. This week's episode of Star Trek Prodigy was a whole lot of fun, but I wanted to take this captain's log to tell Captain Schaff how much I appreciate all of his efforts and all of his hard work that he puts into this podcast, as well as the TikTok and social media for TREKnological. We would not be the same if it weren't for the Herculean efforts of Captain Schaff. He is truly appreciated. Welcome to TREKnological, a Star Trek Shakedown, a short-form podcast hosted by two hardworking dads who love to talk Trek. I'm Captain Vactor, and with me each week, side by side in our co-captain's chair on the bridge of the USS TREKnological, is Captain Schaff. Hello, Schaff.
Hey,
Woo!
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, that warm captain's log welcome. Holy cow, I was not expecting that, but thank you for the kindness. Thank you.
I didn't want to spoil Captain Schaff for the captain's log because I made that specially for him, for my boy, Captain Schaff. So.
Yeah, I heard that live for the first time, listeners. I was told not to look at the agenda. I didn't know what he was going to say.
Yeah. Well, if you're new to TREKnological, each week we'll be traveling to a new planet to seek out new Trek news, as well as sharing our thoughts on each episode of whatever the current Star Trek show that is airing right now. It's Star Trek Prodigy Season 1, the second half of Season 1. And as a bonus, we'll be recounting our adventures in fatherhood with our weekly segment called Boldly Dadding, my favorite part of the show, Schaff.
Mine too.
Yeah. All right. Let's not waste any time. Set a course for the nearest planet, maximum warp.
Aye, sir. Course laid in.
It's working. It's working. Captain Schaff, meet me in the transporter room where we'll beam down to the planet's surface to search for some Trek news.
Aye, sir. Misa on my way.
To the beam down. Captain Schaff, let's scan the planet's surface for any sign of Trek news.
Ooh, I found some Trek news, Captain Vactor. Woo-hoo-hoo. Here are some of the highlights. That's right, listeners. We're going to be talking about Trek news again.
Yeah.
So, there's a bunch of Trek news, but we're going to focus on three specific articles that came out over the past week. The first one is, the headline reads, 5 Star Trek First Contact Facts You May Never Have Known.
Whoa.
First Contact is definitely one of my favorite Star Trek movies, arguably my favorite. I know Wrath of Khan is usually everyone's favorite, but I was more a TNG guy growing up.
Yes.
So I feel like my heart is with First Contact over Wrath of Khan,
Yes.
but definitely they're both neck and neck as far as how great they are.
And for me, Schaff, that was my first Trek movie I saw in the theater was First Contact. And I was super excited like you.
Really?
I was a TNG fanatic. So as soon as I was always like, oh, the original cast, those guys are old boomers before that word was a thing. And TNG, I was like, yeah, these are the young hip cats, Schaff. So when they got the TNG cast, I was like, yeah, this is great.
We're not ageists here. We just want to put that out there.
Hey, speak for yourself.
But yeah, my first movie I saw in the theaters was Star Trek VI,
Whoa.
The Undiscovered Country. And then Generations, and then First Contact. So there's a few things here. So these are 5 Star Trek First Contact facts that you may never have known. So the first thing is Patrick Stewart helped restructure the movie's story. So apparently, initially in the first draft, Captain Picard was supposed to go down to the planet and help rally Cochrane, but Patrick Stewart helped shape the actual screenplay, and he was like, no, Picard should stay back, stay aboard the Enterprise E to confront his traumatic past with the Borg. So I think that was a perfect thing.
Nice.
The other thing is quick Disneyland trivia. Have you? So you're a Disney. You're a Disney kid. Like
Yes.
You've been to Disney a bunch of times, right?
Yes.
So were you ever at Disneyland when they had Captain EO?
Oh, yes. Now, I don't know if you know this about me, Shoff, but I am a Michael Jackson fanatic, and there were 2 rides at Disney that I loved growing up. Number 1 was the Star Wars ride, which I'm blanking
Sure.
on the name right now, but
Star Tours.
yeah, Star Tours, and then Captain EO. So both of those were my go-to rides. Like I had to go on those multiple times every time I went to Disney.
Yeah, and Captain EO, I mean, that was really just a short movie that you got to sit but experience because it was like 4-dimensional.
Yeah,
right. You were seeing 3D, but it was also, there was stuff happening in the seats.
Yes.
To rumble or like air bursting in your face or
and I loved
somebody
it as a kid.
drooling on you. Oh wait, no, that was just the person sitting next to me. But specifically, how this relates back to Star Trek is according to Brennan Braga, as he and Moore developed the Borg Queen, they actually used and were inspired by Angelica Houston's role as the supreme leader in Captain EO. And you know what? When you think about it, it's a no-brainer. It's obvious that the Borg Queen was inspired by Supreme Leader because of the way that she comes from the ceiling. She's covered in like tubes and stuff.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it makes perfect sense. But anyways, I thought that was like, wow. No wonder she has such a striking resemblance to Captain EO, Supreme Leader. So I thought that was really, really cool.
Yep.
And by the way, there are some great songs in Captain EO.
Oh, yeah.
We are here to change the world. Gonna change the world.
Yeah, Shoff. Yeah.
I love that. I could go on and on about Captain EO. We could make a podcast about Captain EO.
Yes.
I love it that much.
Yes.
I was so sad when that left the theater that it was coming out of, and they put in "Honey, I Blew Up the Kids."
Yes.
I was like, ugh.
Now, did you get a chance to see it when they brought it back for a short time?
Yes, I did.
Yes,
I did.
And
yeah, I saw it before when it was the only thing they were doing there. I saw blew up the audience, and then when EO came back, I was like, I got to come back to Disneyland.
Yes.
I got to see Captain EO.
Yes.
So, the on-screen Phoenix, the ship that they used to achieve warp speed, is a real deactivated nuclear missile.
What?
Yep. They filmed it at the Titan Missile Museum, believe it or not, in Arizona, where Vactor lives. It's a deactivated strategic air command base that housed a silo containing a 103-foot tall deactivated nuclear missile. So, pretty wild.
Wow.
The amount of Borg that invaded the Enterprise, it looks like they had a ton, but really it was only 8. And they all just basically played a bunch of different versions of them, but it was only 8 stunt performers for that. The Enterprise E design bears traces of the 66 Ford Mustang. So the special effects house improvised certain details, including the warp nacelle struts, and they used the back fender of the Ford Mustang as sort of like an idea of how it would look. So I thought that was pretty cool. But anyways, that's some first contact news. The next bit of news, if my computer will let me change the article here. This is from cracked.com, which that's where you get all the hard-hitting news, is on cracked.com.
Oh, yeah.
But more or less, the question is where all the poop goes on the Enterprise. So, I mean, you're a Starfleet, but you still got to poop. Where the hell does everyone go to the bathroom? So apparently there's a door near the back of the Enterprise D bridge labeled head.
What?
And it's actually like on the ship. And it's called head because in naval parlance, the language of Naval Academy or whatever, that's considered the bathroom. So that's where they didn't build or design the inside of the bathroom, but it was just there. So technically there is a bathroom on the Enterprise bridge, and it's called head. So there you go. That's where they're pooping, on the bridge. They don't have to go anywhere else. They just go in the back of the bridge. And then the last thing is Star Trek, the 7 best and 7 worst things about the franchise. This comes from looper.com. And I wanted to share this because the worst things, I can't think of like what makes Star Trek like the worst. Like, what's the worst part? The best things are diversity, optimism, hopeful view of the future. The worst, as they call it, is oversaturation. So
What?
they think that there were at one time too many things for Star Trek going on right now.
Oh no.
And especially right now, as we've talked about before, we're in the middle of a TREKnaissance.
Yeah.
The golden age of Star Trek has commenced. And do you feel like it's oversaturation?
No, not at all.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think it's. I'm glad that there's so much Star Trek because there was a time when there wasn't very much on TV. So
Right.
I'm glad that there's enough to go around for everybody, all ages, shapes, and sizes. Another reason why, or some of the best things about the franchise, tackling social issues and moral messages, but they consider some of the worst things repetitive stories. Specifically, they talk about Into Darkness and how it basically was a rehashing of Wrath of Khan, very derivative. What do you think about that?
Now, rehashing stuff, there can be tasteful ways of doing that, and I'm against the notion that you can never rehash something, but there's things like homage and tribute, ways that you can do a kind of your version of something, but also recognize that something else came before it. But when something becomes repetitive to the point where it's like, oh man, I've seen this before, there's no novelty to this. I think that's when it starts to become a bad thing, is if you've seen something so many times and you can predict what's going to happen and then it happens, that's when it becomes bad.
Yeah, I think you're right. And there definitely are a fair amount of Star Trek cliches, things that happen over and over again, and shows like Lower Decks make fun of them. The show is able to be self-deprecating and make fun of itself when it needs to, which is great. But I think Strange New Worlds is probably a great example of a show that found a way to take some pretty formulaic plots and make them feel fresh, innovative, and that way it doesn't feel like a lazy repeating of any ideas. So I think that was really cool.
Yeah.
And then I won't go through all 7 of these. I'll just do one more. It said one of the another best things about the franchise, it's rewatchable and timeless, which I would have to agree. What do you think?
Oh yeah.
At the worst, though, it says when it tries to be dark. When it tries to be a dark show. And, maybe I understand that because Star Trek being a show or a series of shows and movies that are all about hope, right?
Yeah,
and
right.
Maybe it's hard for them to tell some dark stories, but I feel like Star Trek Picard was kind of a dark show. And people say it went too dark. People say it was too grim, too depressing. I don't know. I kind of felt it was okay. I think Discovery is a show that has the capacity to go dark, but it does it in a good way. I really like Discovery.
Yeah.
By the way, where are you at on the Discovery catching up?
Still in season 1, unfortunately.
Oh, man. Oh, gosh, you have so much fun ahead of you. So much fun ahead of you.
Man, I can't.
Anyways, there's a lot of other stories that we saved and we'll make... and we can put in the show notes and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Some things about Dr. Pulaski, Voyager's role in Janeway's new ship on Prodigy, a theory about how Zero connects the Borg from Voyager to Picard, and then also they interviewed Zoe Saldana about the delayed Trek sequel. So lots to talk about.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to our recap and review of Star Trek Prodigy Season 1, Episode 13, All the World's a Stage. First airing on November 10th, 2022. Man, this is a musical show, Shoff. There's a lot of singing going on here. Directed by Andrew Schmidt. Oh, good old Schmitty. Written by Aaron J. Walt, however you say that. And I want to throw up a red alert right now. If you haven't seen Star Trek Prodigy, we's gonna spoil it. The crew answers a distress call to find a colony trapped in Starfleet's past. So I had a ton of fun with this episode, Shoff. This episode the whole thing was basically not an SNL, but an homage to Kirk's personality. Show, that is my interpretation of this episode. The whole show, this whole episode, is so that they could do their impersonations of William Shatner. That's the whole reason this episode exists. What did you think about All the World's a Stage?
Dude, you know what? This episode surprised me in how much I loved it.
I would say this is my favorite
I mean,
episode.
I don't have anything against Prodigy, but I've told you before, I don't feel like this is a show that we can really like dig deep and talk about week over week. Like I think it just doesn't lend itself to that. But I will say that this episode had a lot of really tasty, fun nuggets. And I think why I enjoyed it so much is the nostalgia factor.
Yeah.
I think that's what really works. But yeah, the Shatner impression, freaking hilarious. I loved it. You kind of, you know what was funny to me is like, a lot of times if you do an impression of somebody, especially if it's like something, you can definitely tell they dialed it up, right? Like it's not true Kirk. It's not true Shatner. It's like Shatner exaggerated. Right. And sometimes when you do exaggerated impressions, you can really only do them for really short spurts. Like you can't commit to a almost 30-minute episode acting this way.
Right.
Because the audience is going to get sick of it. But that's not the case here. Surprisingly, it's funny no matter how many times he talks. Like, it's just like, I just found myself smiling or laughing the whole time. They talk about Ensign, the call of Ensign. I was like, is this a nod to Anson Mount? I was like, is this a little callback to Anson Mount? I was like, I'd be okay with that. But all the names, Sul Hu, Federation, Enterprise, James T, Dr. Boones, Sprock. So funny.
That was my favorite part of this episode. And I had the captions on just because I didn't want to wake up my family. I was watching it early this morning. So I had the volume turned down. Or not turned down all the way, but just a little bit, just quiet, so my family wouldn't hear. But I had the subtitles on. My favorite part was picking out all of those names that you just said, and I was like, "Yes, this is perfect." And then even the phrases, the catchphrases like "live logs improper," "most illogical," all of those things just made me laugh, and I thought that they did a great parody, great impersonation of all of the OG cast.
I read somewhere that this episode wasn't like a nod or an ode or a tribute to red shirts.
Oh,
because it was this guy that landed on this planet. He was just like a red shirt, like he was like a nobody. And, you know, he sort of inspired a civilization. And obviously his shuttle got trapped here and everything. Like he died on the planet, which red shirts tend to do, you know? So it was, I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of like a tribute to red shirts, and also the impact that red shirts make. Like even like that their deaths are not forgettable or they're not disposable people. This guy actually had a profound effect on the civilization, that the indigenous species or whatever that was living there. But yeah, Starflight Command, so funny. Live logs improper. That one I did chuckle. I did laugh about that. I was saying to myself when I was watching, I was like, this feels like Galaxy Quest.
Ooh, yes.
The same concept, like the idea that this alien species would take the interactions that they had with, I mean, in the case of Galaxy Quest, of course, it was just the radio or video waves or whatever of the TV show, and them taking it as historical documents and whatnot and recreating something that was fictional and making it real. But that the way that they took it and basically adapted it to their own civilization, I was like, this is definitely Galaxy Quest. And it was so funny. And then seeing the Galileo shuttle that was from the Enterprise, like that was really, really cool. It looked perfect. Obviously it looked just like it should. That's actually, I'm going to be doing this, by the way. This is a quick nod to our TikTok. But as like a way to count down to Christmas, I'm going to be showcasing a Star Trek ornament every day in the month of December leading up to Christmas from my collection. And the first one I ever got from the Hallmark Star Trek ship collection was the Galileo shuttle. And
nice.
it lights up. It like plugs into like your light strand, and it lights up, and it actually has a recorded audio from Leonard Nimoy, and he's as Spock, and he's saying, how does he start? Spock here. Happy holidays. Live long and prosper. Live logs and proper. No, I'm just kidding. And I love it. I love it. I love it. In fact, I like to joke that if you press the button and you keep pressing it, it sounds like Spock is stuttering. So I say like, poor Spock. He's like shuttlecraft Enterprise.
Nice.
But anyway, so I loved seeing the Galileo shuttle. That was really, really
Yes. And did you know, Shoff, this episode had a few actors that I think we both enjoy in it. Jason Alexander played Dr. Noom. Daveed Diggs from Hamilton, and he's been in a ton of things, played Commander Tysius. And Jamila Jamil, who we just saw in She-Hulk, played Essentia. But the voice that I picked out specifically was D. Bradley Baker, who is the voice of all the clones on Clone Wars and on Avatar: The Last Airbender. He does a bunch, but he was James T, and I knew his voice, so I picked him out right away. And he played a bunch of Enderprisians. So there was a ton of nice voice talent in here. Also, Fred Tatasciore, who plays, he's on Lower Decks, and he's in the Hulk and many Marvel animated things, but he was Spock.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
he was?
Yeah, that was fun.
Most illogical. I was wondering what William Shatner, how he felt about this episode. Like, he doesn't watch Star Trek. He said it multiple times, and I certainly don't think he watches Prodigy.
Oh, no.
Just based on it being an animated show for mostly children. Right. But he's not super fond of people doing impressions of him. Like, he doesn't think he sounds like that. And every time I've seen him, he'll record his reaction to watching videos of other people doing impressions of him. He doesn't like it. And he doesn't agree and doesn't think that he sounds like that. And I don't know if he's just putting us on or something like that, but I don't think he would probably approve of this episode because it's so much a caricature of it. And I don't know, but I thought it was hilarious, but I'm feeling like William Shatner probably would not like this very much. I didn't know that Jamila Jamil was in this episode. I don't remember Essentia. I don't remember her
was,
from
one of the Enderprisians, but she could have had a smaller role as well.
Okay. I think she's supposed to have a bigger arc on this show. I wonder if she's going to have more to do.
Nice. Yeah, that'd be great.
And then Jason Alexander and Daveed Diggs, like we only saw a little bit of them, but they're still technically with Janeway and the Diviner. So I'm sure we'll see more of them in future episodes too.
I can't wait.
There was a really nice touch with because they got the Enderprisians or whatever to come on the Protostar, and they were on the bridge, but they were like, I don't know how to work this stuff. And then Janeway was like, no worries, we'll just use like a hollow console with the TOS like buttons and everything. And I thought that was so cool. Like, the ship is so transformable, like it can be whatever they need it to be, and that's really fun. And then there's this whole like, I wouldn't even call it a B plot, it's probably more of a C plot of Murph seems to be going through some kind of quote unquote metamorphosis.
Also Murph is voiced by D. Bradley Baker, who did James T in this episode.
Okay.
He's famous for doing animal noises, like he does those type of things. So Murph, I could see him definitely. And I was going to ask you, do you think that was Murph having babies or Murph changing into another form? Because I was like, it could go either way.
Yeah.
The way that they were kind of setting it up.
I feel like it's probably a different form.
Ooh. Maybe like more humanoid.
That would be cool. It'd be like Murph is funny because he's like, he can't do anything. Like,
right.
He's a crew member, but he can't help. Like, it would be nice to see him become a little bit more helpful and not just a big blob. You know, like in watching, now I'm blanking on the show, The Orville. Norm Macdonald had a role on that show. He played and I can't remember the name of the character, but he played like a blob alien of
I know who
sorts.
you're talking about. Yeah.
But he was super like able to assist. Like he was kind of like the chief engineer, I think, even at one point. So, I want to see Murph do more than being like comic relief or just like there for the kids.
Right.
So then again, it is a kid's show, so I shouldn't expect too much.
Yeah, they there's another show that I watched that has another similar premise, and it's a Justin Roiland show, also from Rick and Morty, but also a Mike McMahon show from Lower Decks. I'm blanking on the name of that show, but they have a little like blob alien that doesn't speak English, so you have to kind of like interpret yourself, like, oh, what's this alien saying? But yeah, there's those blob characters seem to be in vogue right now. I'm gonna look this up as we're talking here, but yeah, I think that was just another. Solar Opposites. Sorry, Solar Opposites is the show.
Oh yeah.
But I think it was just another fun episode. I think my favorite episode of Prodigy because of the humor, and it was good, Shaw.
It was really good. It was surprisingly good. I was very pleased. Normally I don't have much to write or say about Prodigy, but today I did. So thank you for putting together a great episode.
Yeah.
Co-Captain's Log Supplemental. If you haven't heard about Anchor from Spotify, it's the easiest way to make an interplanetary podcast with everything you need all in one sector. Let us explain.
Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone, computer, or tricorder.
When hosting on Anchor, you can transmit your podcast on all hailing frequencies to each of the 4 quadrants on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and much more.
It's everything you need to synthesize a podcast in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. No gold-pressed latinum needed.
Download the Anchor app or boldly go to anchor.fm to get started.
All right, let's transition to our favorite segment, Shaw, Boldly Dadding, where we talk about something from our lives from the past week, maybe a story, maybe something that has sparked inspiration in your life, Shaw, about being a dad of 2 young girls. Why don't you take us away, Shaw, on Boldly Dadding?
Okay, sure thing. So I actually had a couple of things I wanted to share today. The first one's super short. Actually, they're both kind of short. But the first one is the struggles of working from home as a dad. So I love working from home. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to like put it out there that, I'm complaining about something that a lot of people wish they had, right? But I also think the grass is always greener on the other side, no matter what side you're on. So I'm grateful to have this privilege of working from home, but there are definitely struggles when you've got a couple of little kids and you don't have coverage all the time for them in the sense of like a nanny. So like my wife handles both kids 3 out of the 5 work days of the week with no help. I mean, granted, I help, and I take plenty of breaks, but for the most part, she's handling it on her own. So it's, I feel for that. And I try to do my best to help out, but a lot of times I can't. And I also miss out on a lot of things too, because she'll take them on some little adventure to some park or some trail, or today they're going to a farm and they're going to interact with a bunch of farm animals and stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm sure my daughter, Emily, who's 2 in a few months, she's going to love it. And, my other daughter, Sage, who just turned 6 months a little bit ago, she won't probably remember any of this, but, these are still memories and stuff. She fell asleep in my arms this morning. So I just know I'm missing out on stuff. And yesterday, was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday I had to work and I didn't get a chance to spend any time with her. And Emily was legit crushed. I could tell she was super sad that I had to go. I told her, I'm like, okay, Emily, I got to go in my office now. I got to work. And she was sad. Like she got very somber. She like looked down and she was very depressed. And I was like, are you sad that I have to work? And she was like, yeah. And then she started to cry and she wanted a hug and she didn't want me to work. And that was like crushing, soul crushing. to have your child just like bawl because they want to spend time with you and you're stuck working. And it's like, I have no choice. I'm the provider of the family. I have to work.
Right.
And so like I have to just swallow that that pain that she's feeling, the pain that I'm feeling as a result of the pain she's feeling, and try to, you know, present this image that it's going to be okay. It's fine. You know, I'm just a door away. You know, I'm just in the next room. I can easily come out and say hi. And she eventually was okay with that. But like, it was tough. So, you know, for any other dads out there that are boldly dadding in the best way possible, but are struggling with work from home, I see you, I feel you, I hear you. And if you want to share some of your struggles with working from home as a dad, or alternatively, what it's like to be away from the family completely. Like the benefit I have is I can help out. I can take a break and I can help out. And my job allows me to, which is great.
Nice.
If I was in the office, I'd be totally removed from any conflicts or any struggles.
Right.
And if a child melts down, I'm not going to be there to hear it, to be able to help either. So it's like I have the benefit of being able to help, even though it also keeps me from work, which I need to do too. So it's like a weird, tough balance. But I'm sure that it's a complicated thing on either side, whether you're in the office or you're at home. And we just try to make it work.
Yeah,
So.
that's all you can do. And that actually, Shaf, I've been thinking about in my time. I don't work from home, but I'd like to. But in my kind of journey of being a human being, I think, and a dad, I've thought about the age of retirement. And I've been looking into people who are doing early retirement, retiring at 30, retiring at 40, and then they have, 20, 30 years to spend doing whatever they like. For me, that would be spending time with my family, enjoying seeing my kids grow up, seeing my kid at the moment, but seeing my younger one progress. And when you have that time to do that and you're not tied down to a job 8 hours a day, sometimes 10 hours a day, that's when your life kind of, I think, opens up and your happiness level rises. So I would like to, at one point, retire and spend time just with my family. I think would be my top priority.
Oh, yeah. Gosh, that would be amazing. I wish that we were that set that we could do that. That would be great. The other thing I wanted to say, and this was super short, is today, actually, I was chatting with Emily, and she loves decorating for the holidays, whether it be Halloween or Christmas or whatever. We started decorating for Christmas just to get a head start because things happen slowly when you've got a couple of little ones around.
Right.
But I was telling her that the next holiday on the calendar is not Christmas, but actually it's Thanksgiving. And I said, Thanksgiving is where you say what you're thankful for. And then I asked her, I was like, so what are you thankful for, Emily? And she said this verbatim. I'm going to quote it, and it's in this very specific order, too. So I asked her what she was thankful for, and she said blueberries. She's thankful for blueberries. She's thankful for strawberries.
Yes.
She's thankful for Bobo bars, which, if you don't know what those are, it's a brand of like granola bars that have like berries and stuff in them. And anyways, but she loves them. She's thankful for Mama. She's thankful for Dada.
Yay.
She's thankful for Baby, which is her little sister. She's thankful for light switches.
Nice.
And she's thankful for the couch.
Yay.
And then she said she was thankful for herself. She's like, I'm thankful for Emery. So I just thought it was adorable.
Nice.
Like the things that like a child holds dear
Right.
that they're grateful for. So just funny to me. Anyways,
fantastic.
that's my boldly dadding for the past week. Vactor, what's your dad moment?
Well, like Shoff, I had multiple things on my mind this week, but the one boldly dadding story that kind of stuck out to me, or the thought that I was having, was legacy. And I think I've talked about it on this podcast before. What am I handing down to my son? What am I handing down to the next generation? And Shoff and I both saw Black Panther: Wakanda Forever last night. No spoilers for that movie, but let's just say that movie got me thinking about legacy and passing things down to my son. And it's, it's amazing, Shoff. I guess it's not amazing, but it's kind of a interesting psychological thing. Whenever you have, like, let's say, for example, if you get a new car, then all of a sudden you're seeing that car. Hey, look at that. There's another car like the one I got. Like I do that all the time. Every time I get something new and I have something, oh yeah, that I've been seeing these cars driving around, never noticed how, but now all of a sudden I'm noticing it. And it's the same thing with being a dad. I've noticed so many TV shows and movies hit me differently now than they did when I was single. And I was like, oh yeah, never paid attention to dad stories that much. But now that I am a dad, something like The Lion King, which never hit me as a father and son thing before, but I was thinking about the circle of life and how you're passing things down to the next generation and then they become where you were. And I'm not Simba anymore, Shoff. I'm Mufasa now. So,
and I'm Scar. Be prepared.
That would be a great movie. I'd like to see that. But I was thinking about that today, and also another show that Shoff and I both watched this week, Star Wars Andor. Yeah. There was a scene in Andor. I will say a little bit of a spoiler for this week's Andor. There was a scene in the prison where prisoners were starting a revolt, and that revolt leads to something else that happens across the galaxy. Now, there were prisoners that got killed in this revolt. They were the first in the line getting shot down. And I was thinking about it. I was like, man, those guys are basically, their sacrifice is helping other people out. And it made me feel bad for those guys that, in today's Veterans Day, Shoff, like I think about people who put their lives on the line, people who sacrifice themselves or their lives to help others, and they will never get to experience the joy or the accomplishment of feeling like, hey, I helped somebody out. I did that. And that got me kind of a little emotional thinking about my son. I'm not going to be around to see him, his entire life. Now I will, hopefully, fingers crossed, Shoff, I will be there to see him grow into a man. But beyond that, I won't be around. And so there will be a time when it is only him in the world, and maybe him and his son. But I just thought about that, like that circle of life, and what do I want to pass down to my son? And we talked about it last week in the Boldly Dadding segment. I just want him to be a good person. I want him to affect others around him just because he is a good person. And so he will have some type of a positive effect on friends and family and people who come into contact with him. So that was my Boldly Dadding thoughts for this week, was just thinking about the legacy that I want to leave behind for my son, and then sacrificing, quote unquote, sacrificing myself for him and doing stuff now. And this is another thing that I think we talked about before, Shoff. Everything I've noticed in my life is now coming down to planting a seed. The notion of I'm doing something now to pay off later and to have a benefit later. And I may not be around to see that tree grow, but knowing that I planted that seed, it makes me feel good. And teaching my son the right way and making sure that he has all the tools that he needs to grow and prosper is very important to me. But it gives me joy that I can at least put that seed in the ground so that he will have a nice legacy once he grows up.
It reminds me of a song from Hamilton.
Ooh.
It's the World Was Wide Enough song. It happens towards the end of the musical, but Hamilton sings, "Legacy. What is a legacy?
Ooh.
It's planting seeds in a garden you never get to see. I wrote some notes at the beginning of a song someone will sing for me." So That's what it's all about.
That's perfect.
And everything the light touches is our kingdom.
Yeah.
Oh man, quick shout out, by the way, to John Daranowski, one of our Trek Talk fans out there. You might have previously heard his voice on a past episode. I don't have that episode number at the top of my head, but he was kind enough to reach out, and he actually sent us a voicemail this past week related to boldly dadding, how he boldly dads. And so I wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity to basically play that for you all, and just say thank you to John for reaching out. We love when our fans do this. So if you have like the notion, if there's like a little part of you that's like, just, you can feel the desire to send us a voicemail, act on it, do it, because we love it, and we will play it on the pod unless you tell us not to. And that's just your way of reaching out to us and engaging with us, and it's our way of recognizing you for doing so. So here's John talking about how he boldly dads.
Hey guys, so I was listening to your most recent episode, or it may not have been your most recent episode, regardless. And one of the things I thought of for the boldly dadding episode was, remember to consider time the greatest currency you'll ever have. It's not something that you'll ever get more of. It's not something that you'll ever you can't get a refund. So spend it wisely. Personally, I have a housekeeper that comes once a month to do the real deep cleaning. I value my time with my family more than I value a clean house. And that's one of the ways I boldly dad with my own life.
Yeah, time is definitely the greatest currency. So I think we're both doing a great job of being aware of that and spending that time as wisely as we can. I think there's definitely ways that we can probably be more efficient in our lives to be more available to family, but I think we're doing as good a job as we possibly can right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode, Shoff. I want to thank everyone for listening, taking the time out of your busy schedules to spend it with Captain Shoff and I. And if you would be so kind, don't forget to check us out on social media across all the platforms, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. We are at TREKnopod. Don't forget, you can always subscribe to us on YouTube and TikTok. Those are the places that Shoff is putting out some great short content, as well as Instagram Reels. But we're trying to increase our short content for you. So if you're enjoying it, give Shoff a thank you in the comments of wherever you're enjoying it. You can subscribe, like I said, on YouTube and TikTok for those lovely shorts. And Shoff is the funniest Trekkie that I've ever met. So you definitely want to check out all of those things. If you enjoyed what you heard today, we'd love for you to subscribe and give us a 5-star rating and review in Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And please share the podcast with your Trekkie friends and family. Word of mouth is very important to a small podcast like us. So we would greatly appreciate it if you let all of the friends in your life know about our little show. Next week, we're going to be continuing our recap review of Star Trek Prodigy. We're going to have some more boldly dadding thoughts from the week, and we hope you join us for another episode of TREKnological. I believe our mission of the week is complete. Vactor and Shoff here, 2 to beam up.
Live logs and proper.